Well, today is, of course, the 4th of July. It's a day that America celebrates because they booted we British out, our monarchy out, our mad King George dropped the ball. Otherwise, I would possibly be King Piers right now of the United States of America. So we don't obviously celebrate it with quite such enthusiasm over this side of the pond. But amid the hot dogs and fireworks, even this day of patriotic celebration in the States has become divisive.
Morgan savagely obliterates a leftist, insane, race-hustling lawyer after she goes and just tries to race hustle, guys. You'll see what I mean, guys. It's a wild one, but you're gonna like it. And we're gonna get right into it. But first, everybody, please do me a huge favor and like our video, share it around, and yes, subscribe to the Resist the Mainstream YouTube channel so we can keep bringing you guys this great content. And for those of you who are returning after already having subscribed, thank you so much and welcome back. As always, everybody, I'm your host, Arian. Let's get into the show.
Well, today is, of course, the 4th of July. It's a day that America celebrates because they booted we British out, our monarchy out, our mad King George dropped the ball. Otherwise, I would possibly be King Piers right now of the United States of America. So we don't obviously celebrate it with quite such enthusiasm over this side of the pond. But amid the hot dogs and fireworks, even this day of patriotic celebration in the States has become divisive. There's a growing trend for black Americans to celebrate Juneteenth as an alternative to July 4th. Veteran Congresswoman Maxine Waters in 2021 claimed the Declaration of Independence wasn't for equality and it was only for white men. Her comments were echoed by her fellow Democrat Cori Bush, who said black people still aren't free. So is there something in all this? Should these national institutions...
I want to make a point here that left-wingers hate America, and those tweets right there prove it. You'll notice that often if you bring that up and try to say that Democrats don't like America, a lot of them will play this little disingenuous game and say stuff like, well, you know, just because I criticize a country and think it can be better doesn't mean I don't like it. I actually love it. Yeah, right. They don't. Okay. That's why they burn flags. That's why you have Democrat politicians saying stuff about how July 4th is a holiday for white people only and black people are so oppressed and enslaved and all this kind of crap. They couldn't be more clear about it. They hate this country and they hate what it's founded on. Independence Day is a day for everyone, and that's a fact, whether you like it or not. And if you don't believe me, just look at this pushing of Juneteenth. You notice how they sing such a negative tune about the 4th of July and Independence Day? Yeah, Juneteenth is this great thing. It's a celebration for black independence. At the end of the day, left-wingers view Juneteenth as a more liberating holiday, celebrating the ending of slavery, which, by the way, isn't even what Juneteenth is. It's just when they deliver the news to Texas, Texan holiday. It's got nothing to do with the country nationally, as far as I'm concerned. They'll have all this enthusiasm for Juneteenth, make it a literal federal holiday and the like, but Independence Day is somehow evil. That's because they hate America, and it's disgusting. We should always remember that.
And occasions be opportunities for reflection and apology rather than celebration. Well, joining me now is best-selling author of The War on the West and conservative commentator Douglas Murray, country music legend Lee Greenwood, and my Talk TV contributor Paula Roan Adrian, and Talk TV presenter Richard Tice. All right, well, a stellar panel. Douglas, let me start with you. You read a great piece this week for The Telegraph about this weird trend. I agree with you. I think it's weird, where we're being compelled to just apologise constantly for everything that happened in the past. Why are we doing this?
That's right. It's a very strange act of masochism, really, and an act of masochism carried out by people who don't seem to know anything. I mean, people talk about the British monarchy having to apologise for slavery. It was King George III who signed the Anti-Slavery Act into law in 1807. Prince Albert gave one of the most extraordinary anti-slavery addresses when the British were still policing the anti-slave trade on the high seas in 1840 to the Anti-Slavery League in London. All of this was addressed 200 years ago. And today, unfortunately, there's a kind of new type of malcontent, and usually also a huckster to boot, who just decides that none of this happened. Usually it's because they don't know it happened. And as a result, they look at our history and everything in our country, right up to just, you know, innocent pastimes like cricket, and they decide to name everything as guilty. And, you know, you could do this to everyone and to everything, but most civilizations and cultures don't behave like this because most of them aren't just masochistic and so self-hating.
All right. Paula, good evening. Your response to that?
I actually agree with Douglas about the fact that we don't know enough. He's absolutely right. We don't know enough, and it's important that we do. But part of the knowledge is also understanding the hurt and pain that were caused, not just about the good things. It's not just about the cherry picking. And wrongs are not about being masochistic. Saying sorry is not a bad thing. Saying sorry is actually a very empowering thing to do.
Why does it matter that a bunch of royals now get forced into issuing grovelling apology? Who cares? How does it change anything? It doesn't do anything, in my estimation, to impact on current slavery, where it exists around the world. It doesn't really make any difference to institutional racism, as we've seen in certain parts of society. I don't know what difference it makes. It might make people feel a bit better to see a royal grovelling, but so what?
The difference is with having royal people groveling, which, as far as these complaining parties are concerned, just mean white people. It's about power. That's what it is. At the end of the day, if you want to know who's powerful in a society, look at who you can't criticize. That's who holds the power, and that's the truth. So that's why they want to do it. It's nothing to do with taking the apology and moving on. They have no intentions of doing this, and that's ever so clear. We already had the whole civil rights era. That all happened. And guess what? 80 years have gone by since, and there are even more people complaining about racism than before. There is no intention of moving on, and they never want to. About creating different tiers of society, and in my view, putting white people at the bottom.
I don't agree with you, surprise, surprise. I do think it makes a difference. I do think it makes a difference that people in power are heard to acknowledge pain and hurt. I do think it's important that people in power have taken the time.
But whose pain and hurt are you talking about? It's not people living today. These are going back hundreds of years in some cases, these crimes of slavery and so on. We all agree it was outrageous. It's been debated, really year after year after year. We all know this. I don't think that people have a lack of knowledge. And I'm not quite sure where the apology tour ends. What's the end game here?
So the end game is about the ability to understand the true history, not just the part of history that we have been taught. And that is the difficulty. So you're talking about who's the apology for. Well, the apology is for me. The apology is for those who have suffered. The apology is for those who continue to struggle through colonialism and through slavery. And I do think that it's important that royalty are coming forward and saying, we apologise for the part that we played.
All right,
so is that it? Is that...
And just right there, she gave away the name of her game. It is a narcissistic ploy to seek power. Notice what she said. It's about making people like me feel better. Right. And notice, too, how she gets so excited about the idea of the royal family apologizing for the part that they played. Remind me, which royal family members of the modern day were slave owners? Oh, right. It was none of them. But we're sitting here talking about it as if it's still a thing. Yeah. At the end of the day, the UK moved to abolish slavery beginning in the early 1800s. That's before many other countries in the world, possibly almost all of them. And we still have slavery being practiced in the modern day. But guess what? It's not in the West. Surprise, surprise. And maybe it is a little bit surprising because the way that these race hustlers constantly bash on the United Kingdom, United States, etc., as if they're still practicing slavery or something, you'd think they are, but they're not. Meanwhile, go to the Middle East. Go to a lot of Africa. There is slavery going on. But of course, they've got nothing to say about that.
Is that it? Is that enough? When is enough enough? If we all say sorry today... Hang on.
The British government, when is enough enough? To repay, to compensate slavery.
So if we all say sorry today...
enough?
Well, that's my question to you, and you're not answering it.
When
my point is, if we all say sorry today, it was terrible, which we all know.
Yeah.
Can we then say, right, that's done, we're going to look forwards, we're going to be positive, we're going to celebrate our achievements, learn from our failures, and we're done with apologising?
Absolutely. And so how are we going to learn from our failures if we do not understand what we did wrong?
You learn from your failures because that's what we're doing at the moment. The sort of report you had from the...
How do you learn from your failures if you don't know what you did wrong? If you refuse to accept that you did wrong?
Because the
Notice her language. If you refuse to accept that you did wrong. What I wish this guy right here would respond to her is, actually, I did nothing wrong. And if you think I did something wrong, then bleep you. I'm not going to say the word, all right? At the end of the day, this is a ploy to make white people feel guilty about themselves simply because of their skin color. That's racism in of itself, and it's disgusting. And then, I know there's this common leftist thing they often say, reverse racism is not real. And they say that to imply that you can't be racist to white people. My answer to that is always very simple. You're right, reverse racism isn't a real thing. It's just called racism, and that's what you're practicing right now against people you don't like. Simple as that. Don't let them get away with changing the framing, setting the terms on their own accords. No. At the end of the day, words have meaning, and racism is racism no matter who it's done to, whether it's black, white, green, purple, I don't care.
Cricket board, the ECB, they've just produced a report. They reported. Some of it was good. Some of it you can criticise or question. The point is, we've learned from that. We're moving on. We're celebrating. We're being positive. Otherwise,
how have we learned?
I tell you what it does. It depresses
from it,
everybody. It leads to a perception of decline.
I agree with that. I think what it does. I want to bring in Lee Greenwood here, who's a big country star in America, and he wrote "God Bless the USA," one of the great anthems celebrating the United States. It's July 4th. Obviously, as I said at the start here, Lee, we don't celebrate it with quite such enthusiasm this side of the pond. We sort of take a view that Mad King George dropped the ball a bit, but I'm happy for my American friends that you have this day to celebrate. You wrote this great anthem, really, for your country. Can we be proud of our country anymore, or is this kind of this desire to feel this terrible regret about everything and apology for everything? Does that mar the pride? How do you feel?
Well, I'm going to go out on a limb here and just say the people that I run with and talk to, and believe me, I tour across America all the time. We do 140, 50 days a year, every doghouse, outhouse, and roundhouse. And I talk to the American public. They listen to what I say, listen to what I sing. I happen to be a country music performer, but I was born in California, spent 20 years in Nevada. I live in the South now. And I wrote this song because it was for unity. It's a unity and for military sacrifice. And yeah, America started as an interesting expedition and then an experiment, and we fought it out. We fought each other in the Civil War and said, okay, we're going to bury the hatchet here. The trouble is, as we move forward, a lot of people try to change history. I'm okay with history. I'm okay with apologizing for what happened back then. But I agree with you, that was back then. Let's move forward. Let's move on past that, and let's not change history and try to change what happened.
Yeah, I completely agree. Douglas, the problem is we've forgotten how to be genuinely proud of our great countries, both America and the United Kingdom, two of the greatest countries in the world. It's almost like every day now, somebody somewhere, normally on the left, the woke left, is queuing up to find a reason to hate the countries and their histories.
Well, it's a kind of grievance competition. Your guest earlier just tried to engage in it. I don't know what hurt she believes she's had from slavery. All of this was addressed 2 centuries ago. Everything has consequences. All history has consequences and ramifications. But, you know, if we were to play this fairly, we would at least look at all of the countries around the world that engaged in the slave trade who are simply not interested in any form of reparations. The Ottoman Empire, all the Arab countries who not just traded far more slaves than across the Atlantic, but castrated all the men so that there wouldn't be any more African slaves after them. They worked them to the bone. I see no interest across Africa in paying reparations for selling their brother and sister Africans into slavery or for working them to the bone to the present day. There is slavery across Africa today. In fact, there are more slaves in the world today than there were at the height of the transatlantic slave trade. So some of us are simply a bit bored of hearing people ripping at closed wounds and then crying about their hurt or their presumed hurt, because everybody could do this. 1 million Europeans were stolen by North Africans over the course of decades of the North African Barbary pirate slave trade. Where would you end if you did that? The answer is you couldn't end, because nobody is alive who has actually suffered the hurt, and nobody is alive who did the wrong. And I'd make one other point, if I may.
I love seeing the country singer, chill guy, just nodding over there and putting his hand out like, yeah, you got him. Quick mention here, also the word slave comes from Slav, which are Slavic people who are white. That's something that is just never talked about for some reason, and it should be.
It's always the countries that people want to come to who are put through this struggle session. Britain, like America and France, are the most desired destinations for migrants worldwide and have been for centuries. Why is that? It's not because we're racist, it's because we're better. It's because we're good. It's because when we see racism, we actually call it out and recognize it as a sin. Try finding that across Africa. Try finding that across the Middle East or in China. Nobody would hear. So what we have is a situation where the more virtuous countries are presented as the worst countries. It's sick, and most of us are tired of it.
The United States of America takes more immigrants than any other country in the world, and it's not even close. We're only 5% of the world's population, keep in mind. So there's a whole lot of world out there that people could still go to. Yet somehow Americans are these horribly, irredeemably racist people. Yeah, no. Cut the crocodile tears, because I'm sick of it. And like Douglas Murray said, so is almost everybody. And thank God for that.
Douglas,
I am so sorry that Douglas is bored by the pain that has come from
That's not what he said.
through slavery.
He didn't say. He didn't say. But what you're doing there, what you're doing. Yeah, but hang on, Paula. Paula, you're being very disingenuous. That's not what he said.
I am.
And viewers aren't stupid. They know exactly what he said. He's not saying he's bored by the pain. He's saying, and I think it's a perfectly valid point, the pain that people who are alive today are claiming they're suffering for what happened 200 or 300 years is not a real pain. They're not the ones who suffered what was going on 200 or 300 years ago.
So, in terms of justice for all, I mean, I think we'd all agree that there should be justice.
Well, I'm not suffering from when the Normans invaded this country.
Agree.
I'm not suffering from what my ancestors went through.
I noticed that I'm not being allowed to respond.
Or from the Romans. In other words, where do you take this? I mean, should I now be feeling pain from what the Romans did to this country?
In terms of slavery, I can take it to 2015, when the slave owners were compensated by the government. So I can take it to that extent.
But where does your personal pain come?
And I can say to you that I don't think that apologising is a bad thing. I think that apologising for a wrong is a good thing. I think that the Dutch royal family have done a fantastic thing in acknowledging what has gone wrong.
Okay, I hear you, but I honestly think it'll make no difference at all.
He's absolutely right. It won't make any difference. At the end of the day, people like that lawyer girl and many others who support this kind of toxic leftist, anti-white, being super obsessed with slavery ideology and the like, they are miserable, narcissistic people who want to exercise power on others. That's the point. That's the end of the game. And with them, it'll never end. There's never going to be one day where they wake up and say, "We did it, team. Racism is over." You know why? Because they'd have nothing to complain about. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. As always, please be sure to comment below. Let us know what you liked about the video, what kind of content you want to see next. See you guys again soon. Thanks, and God bless.